But I mean, you only learn so much about yourself if you're utilizing your lonely season correctly. If your lonely season is you going to the clubs every weekend and getting with a bunch of people and hanging out with mediocre friends, of course, you aren't going to reap any of the benefits from that lonely season. You reap the benefits from your lonely season when you are actively taking the time to study yourself, study your mind, learn about what you want, learn about what you want for your future. And I feel like more people need to do that because so many people I know, so many people in their 20s immediately get out of a relationship and then crave another one so bad. Hey guys, welcome back to the Beta Mindset podcast. I haven't been posting as much as I've wanted to because I've been really busy and I got a new kitten. And if you're watching on YouTube, that's why I keep looking away because she is a very curious girl. Here she is. Do you have anything to say? She usually meows a lot. This girl's a talker. I have my original cat. She is my first child, my prized possession. I love her so much. And I have been out of the house so much and I leave her alone more than I want to, which is why I got this new kitten. And I wanted to give my cat a friend because my cat is really needy. And because I'm always out of the house, I just feel terrible. And I just was hoping that if I got a new kitten for my cat, then she wouldn't be alone. And my cat is really angry with me right now. But I'm really doing this whole process. Like, I'm really being patient. I'm keeping them separate for right now. And then I'm going to exchange their scents and whatnot. And I hope that they're going to be able to become friends because I genuinely got this kitten to help my cat's mental because my cat is so sad when I'm not with her. But yeah, I'm hoping that this podcast episode, like filming, goes smoothly. This little kitten is very curious and trying to bite and climb on everything. So I just hope this filming goes smoothly because if it doesn't, I'm gonna have to re-record it. Today's episode is gonna be about lonely seasons. So if you are feeling really alone, if you also just got out of a relationship, if you feel like you long to make more connections, but that's just not what's happening in your life right now, then this episode is for you. For me in my life, I definitely feel like I've entered a sort of lonely season. I know some of you guys probably saw one of my previous episodes about going through a breakup. And as well as that, I also am experiencing life differently for the first time because me and my twin sister just separated. For those of you guys who don't know, I am an identical twin. And my twin sister just moved to LA to chase her dreams and do everything she's ever wanted to do. So she's in LA, she's an editor there. She does really great work and I'm really proud of her. But her moving to LA and me staying here in Florida is definitely, a big challenge. And at the time, me and my boyfriend were still together. So in my head, I felt a bit more comfortable because although I have friends that do know me and I am close with, obviously my twin sister and my boyfriend at the time were the closest people to me. So when my sister moved to LA, I felt really sad and really scared because I've been with my twin my whole entire life. We were roommates in our undergrad and college. We went to the same college and we've been together our whole entire lives. So when she moved to LA, that's obviously so scary for me. You could say I've genuinely never been alone because I've always had my twin. So even when she left, I still felt a little bit comfortable because I did have my boyfriend and then we broke up. So I can say that I have definitely entered this season of loneliness or solitude, although having good friends is just a different feeling because I lost the two most closest people to me. So if any of you guys are going through a lonely period or just this insane shift, I just want to tell you you're not alone at all. I definitely am in this really different season of my life. I think like for the first time, I genuinely feel alone because even going through situations with relationships and whatnot, I always had my twin sister presently, physically there with me all the time. And I'm actively going through this breakup without her being here. And of course, that's just a new, different experience that's gonna challenge me to develop way more strength. I will say that I have an utmost belief that when one door closes, another door opens. So, you know, losing my sister and she's in a different state across the country, getting out of this relationship, I understand that, these doors close and there's going to be new ones that open. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to see which new doors open. And I feel like that's what being in that lonely season really looks like when you are kind of just waiting to see what's next. I will say sometimes simultaneously new things come into your life, which I've also experienced as well. But I've also experienced lonely seasons where I was kind of waiting a while until I experienced any sort of positivity or happiness again. But I think it just depends on the situation and honestly what God or the universe wants you to be learning through your lonely seasons. I think a lot of people want to rush out of their lonely seasons. I used to want to do that so bad. Like in the past, I could not be alone for the life of me. Any single time I entered some sort of like lonely season or I went through a breakup or I lost people, I needed to replace them immediately. And that is something you guys need to learn to stop doing. That's something I learned to stop doing. And when you stop doing that, your life gets way better because your life's no longer filled with mediocre connections. When you're constantly wanting to replace people that fast, that's how you only cultivate mediocre connections. And I'm really proud of myself to see that this time around, this like lonely season I'm going through, like losing my sister and parting ways from my past relationship, I am so happy to see that I am not rushing to get out of this lonely season. Like I'm not rushing to replace people. I'm not rushing to engage with connections that are half-assed just to not be alone. I'm actually enjoying my time alone. And I said this in my breakup episode. I said that I'm going to take this opportunity to genuinely pour into myself and, focus on myself. That doesn't mean you need to shut yourself out from the world, but you also need to be mindful if you are becoming desperate for connections just because you're alone now. Lonely seasons, the amount it lasts for, I think varies for everyone depending on what situation you're in. I think if you've had a history of constantly self-sabotaging and constantly jumping from relationship to relationship and constantly just engaging in toxic habits, I feel like once you hit a rock bottom and you enter a lonely season, it might last extremely long to make up for all the time you've just been constantly consuming yourself with meaningless things, meaningless activities, and meaningless people and connections. I feel like more people need to view lonely seasons as something that's trying to tell them what they need to work on instead of something to resist. If you are entering a lonely season, it has a reason. It's not just happening to make you lonely and make you depressed. It's serving a purpose, but you need to figure out what that purpose truly is. Is that purpose to learn how to stop engaging in toxic habits and toxic behaviors? Is that purpose to learn more about yourself? Is that purpose to dive into your career and dive into your passions? Is it all of the above? Do you need to fix all of these things? In your lonely seasons, that's what it's going to address. Your lonely seasons will address these topics. I will mention that for some people entering lonely seasons, sometimes you can instantaneously start cultivating new connections, new doors opening really fast. And I've been on both ends. I've been on that end, and I've also been on the end where I saw no movement during my lonely season for a really long time. And that's why I say, like, it just depends on what you have to work on, what God clearly wants you to work on, because it really differentiates how long your quote unquote lonely season is going to last. And I guess the definition of a lonely season varies between people. Some people, lonely season is like they have no friends and they also have no romantic relationship and they're by themselves every single day. Some other people, their lonely season is all they just want a relationship because without a relationship, they feel alone. So it just depends on what that lonely season means for you. Like, what is it that you feel like is making you feel alone? I have been through different versions of lonely seasons, and I'm going to explain it to you. So, a couple years ago, my lonely seasons, I mean, not a couple years ago, more like several years ago, my lonely seasons looked kind of different than what they look like now. I was a lot more desperate for male validation and relationships. So when I would get into a lonely season, it just felt so stagnant and felt so slow. Like unless I was replacing what I lost with another relationship, just time moved by so slow. I lacked self-esteem, and those times, those lonely seasons were calling me to put more time into learning how to increase my self-esteem, learning how to increase my standards, learning how to, shift my values and morals to begin cultivating a healthier life for me. So those lonely seasons were excruciating. I was not happy for a really long time, but I needed it. I needed it so bad because if it weren't for those months and months and months and months and months of being alone, I wouldn't have learned how to be okay enjoying my own company. And I will say, pertaining to those types of lonely seasons, like it may seem like life is moving by so slow. Like every single day is the exact same, and you're literally getting depressed because you're so used to being validated maybe by romantic relationships or, by people that you like you just want to search for connections to give you validations. You're used to that. You're used to always going out, always partying, always filling that void. And for those lonely seasons, you're gonna have to rewire all of that. And that's why those lonely seasons are harder than some other types of lonely seasons, because you are literally rebuilding your life from the ground up. And that's if you really want to better yourself and do inner work and change your whole entire life. That's what I had to do. Fast forward to now, I feel like my lonely seasons definitely look a lot different than my lonely seasons when I was so insecure and just so dependent on male validation. These lonely seasons are different because I'm not really building from the ground up. I definitely have a base of security and a really high self-esteem. It's just losing people that I cared about. That's basically what my lonely season is based off of. Whereas before, my lonely seasons were not just based off of losing people I care about, but it was based off of, self-hatred. I had a really bad self-esteem. I could not go any month without trying to gain validation. I had to go out and fill my life with meaningless things to feel good about myself. So you can see there's different types of lonely seasons depending on the person you are right now. So I'm going to touch on both of these types of lonely seasons depending on what type of person you are right now and what you are trying to do with your life through this lonely season. So, if your lonely season kind of resonates with my situation right now, where you don't feel like you have extreme problems with your self esteem, you don't feel like you need to go out of your way to replace the people you lost, I would say a good strategy for you and something that I'm using for myself is becoming a yes person. Start saying yes to things that you usually didn't say yes to in the past. Does that mean going to hang out with new people? Does that mean going to take on new opportunities? Does that mean going to explore new things you've never explored? Then do those things. And the reason I don't particularly say that to those of you who are kind of in the lonely season, similar to my past self, where you do have extreme issues being alone, you are working on deep self-esteem issues, is because I don't want you guys to take that as an opportunity to go say yes to partying, yes to more dating, yes to a bunch of things that you know you don't need right now. Honestly, you can apply the yes strategy to both. Um, but just be mindful of what you're saying yes to. Like, you don't need to be saying yes to going out every single night to go party and drink alcohol because you're becoming a yes person and you need to make new experiences. Like, that's obviously not what I'm talking about. Become a yes person to things that you know you've always wanted to do, things you know that will help you be a better person, things you know will add to your life. If anything, through my lonely seasons in the past where I was dealing with issues, learning how to be alone, and, insecurity issues, I had to say no a lot more. I had to say no to guys trying to hook up. I had to say no to my friends constantly asking me to go clubbing and go drinking. I had to say no to everything I was doing previously because I was just making my life worse. Does that make you feel like time is moving by really slow? Yeah. When you are in your lonely season and you're starting to change the activities you let yourself indulge in, you're starting to change the people you're letting yourself talk to, you might feel really depressed and really bored, and you might feel like time is moving by really slow because your life wasn't like that before. But you need to understand that life is not always exciting. And that's something that so many people just don't understand. Like, it's like every single person is so used to constant validation, constant excitement, constant drama, constant these like high highs and these low lows, that when it's just like moderate, they are like really upset. They have to fill that void with something. And you need to get used to being okay with having a less exciting life. Lonely seasons might be your time in your life where things aren't as crazy as they used to be. And that's okay. You don't need constant excitement all the time. I literally used to be like that. I used to just always want constant excitement, always want validation, could not be alone for a second because it just felt off. I didn't enjoy it. But in order to learn about yourself and change your life, I think you're gonna go through a lonely season. In order to change your life, you're gonna go through some sort of a lonely season because you are shedding the old so you can call in the new. And there's like this time gap in between where you're losing people and you're gaining new people and new opportunities into your life. And in that time gap, you might be lonely. You might be bored. Life's not exciting. Maybe you're doing the same things every day. Maybe every day is all about journaling, going to the gym, and doing your studies. Is that boring? Yeah, it could be. But you are also going to reap the benefits from that. I'm being honest when I tell you that there are times in your lonely seasons where it's literally boring. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you and just lie to you and say, "Oh my god, no, the whole entire experience is so amazing and you're crazy if you don't think that." Like, there are people who will tell you like, "No, like you should be loving your lonely season the whole entire time." Like, That's not realistic. We are social creatures, especially for those of us who've had a habit of consistently letting people into our lives to just fill the void. You're gonna feel that void even deeper now because you are finally letting yourself be alone for the first time in a long time. So it's not always amazing and so much fun. Yes, it's a little bit boring sometimes, but it does get better because you learn so much about yourself. But I mean, you only learn so much about yourself if you're utilizing your lonely season correctly. If your lonely season is you going to the clubs every weekend and getting with a bunch of people and hanging out with mediocre friends, of course, you aren't going to reap any of the benefits from that lonely season. You reap the benefits from your lonely season when you are actively taking the time to study yourself, study your mind, learn about what you want, learn about what you want for your future. And I feel like more people need to do that because so many people I know, so many people in their 20s immediately get out of a relationship and then crave another one so bad. So now getting into this whole relationship talk, because I know most people in their lonely season, it's going to be similar to me. Like, you just got out of a relationship and you're entering this new season of being alone. You guys need to know that getting into another connection, another relationship is not what you need right now. And I wish I could go back in time and tell my past self this sooner. It took me a long time to really understand how I was ruining my love life because I was constantly letting myself replace my past connections over and over and over again. I was jumping into things way too fast. And now, seeing as how I handle this breakup, like I said, I have zero interest in having another relationship currently. I don't, it's just not where my head is at all. And I see so many people my age get out of a relationship and verbatim tell me, I want another relationship. You just got out of one. You just got out of one. And I can't even get that mad at them because I used to be them. I just am trying really hard to understand how I got from that to this. And I think, honestly, the main way I got from operating like that to operating like this, where relationships and male validation is not at the center of my life, is that I realized that it was never going to fulfill what I thought it would fulfill. When you are longing for relationships that much, when you are constantly just wanting to have someone to be obsessed over, that's just because you don't feel fulfilled somewhere in your life, somewhere in yourself, and you think that a relationship is going to do that for you. You think meeting someone who's going to give you validation or date you is going to fulfill some sort of void you have in your heart, in your life. And I'm telling you, it will never fill that void. I learned that. I learned that because I was able to actually fill that void and sustain this feeling of fulfillment because it's not dependent on any exterior source. It's dependent on me. I filled that void by learning how to appreciate myself, how to love myself, and I started to pour into my aspirations. I started to pour into what I want for my future. I started to pour into my spiritual life. That is how you fill that void. It's never going to be filled by relationships. It's never going to be filled by meaningless parties and sex and hookups and mediocre connections. You can try all you want, but I'm telling you, you're going to be sitting in that bathroom one day crying, realizing you still feel alone. Because I've been you. I've been there. It's honestly such a disservice to yourself when you constantly feel the need to obsess over someone or gain validation or get into a relationship when you know deep down that that's not what you need. I want to hope that deep down these individuals know that that's not what they need, because I have had conversations with these types of people, and I've been these types of people, and they'll tell you up front, like, no, like, why not? Like, it's fine, I'm fine, like, I like them, they like me. It's like, are you forgetting you were in a relationship and like in a bunch of relationships for so long and you haven't had a moment alone? You guys don't understand how much lonely seasons are going to help you for your future love life, because you're not allowing yourself to grow and change for your future love life. You just want someone to be there constantly. You just want to go back to your ex because you don't want to be alone. And I think if more people were okay with experiencing lonely seasons, you will better yourself, you will transform your life, and you will end up meeting someone who will be good for you and stick by you, and you don't have to keep breaking up and going to this cycle of relationships with all these half-assed people. You are constantly breaking up and then meeting new people again because you don't know who you are, you don't know yourself. So you haven't been able to establish what you truly want in your romantic partner. I feel like that's why when you are aware that you're about to start a lonely season, you need to become self-aware about what you want to be doing in that lonely season and what you will not accept. Because sometimes when you are going through this lonely season and haven't established any boundaries for yourself, once you get to this extremely lonely feeling, because we all will feel really lonely at some point through that season, if you don't check yourself, you will accept people who shouldn't be in your life. You will go back to your ex, even though you said you didn't want to be with them previously. You will get into a new relationship with a mediocre person because you are acting from a weak spot. You're acting from vulnerability, from a vulnerable moment, because you're feeling really alone. And just because you're feeling lonely doesn't mean you need to engage with toxic people again. It doesn't mean you need to go date somebody. When you're feeling lonely, that's all it is. It's a feeling. You feel it and you let it pass. And I just express this because so many of us in our 20s need a lonely season. And a lot of us have been introduced to a lonely season and we quickly get ourselves out of it because it's so uncomfortable. I feel like if more people in our 20s actually engaged in the lonely seasons presented to them, they actually accepted it and didn't resist it, we would have a lot more self-aware 20 to 29-year-olds. Like, I swear, everyone in my age group, a lot of people in my age group are constantly just addicted to not being alone. They can't stand not being alone. And that's why they have such unhealthy tendencies. They don't have boundaries or standards, and they don't know who they are. So when I tell you, when you are presented with a lonely season, when you are presented with a season where it's asking you to pour into yourself, don't resist it. Don't try to get out of that season so fast. Let yourself marinate in that season, because I'm telling you, if you do, you're only setting yourself up to have better sustainable connections. These lonely seasons are only temporary. It's just a small window in time. And it's really not that long compared to all the other times in your life where you're gonna have a relationship. You're gonna have solid friends. And lonely seasons, pouring into yourself and learning about yourself, is worth it. So I just want you to realize, like, if you're in a lonely season like me, I'm literally in this with you. My twin sister, who I've lived with my whole entire life, moved away. My boyfriend, who was also my best friend, we are not together anymore. I lost both of those people in literally 2 months. I am with you in this process, but I'm telling you that you need to come to this process being brave and understand that when you are seeing that God is trying to nudge you into this season of focusing on yourself, even if it's lonely, it's not to hurt you. It's an opportunity to transform yourself and transform your life. Because once you accept it, once you accept the loss of these people, once you accept the loss of the relationship, once you accept that your life is moving differently now, once you finally accept what is, that's when you're allowed to call in new experiences into your life. My main thing here is to get you to understand that you need to uphold some boundaries and set some guidelines through your lonely season, because if you don't, that's how you will connect to people who are toxic, who are going to hurt you, who are just not what you needed in that time, and it's not what that time was intended for. I know this because throughout past lonely seasons, when I was really going through it, when I got very lonely, I would go back to things that I shouldn't go back to. I would go back to connections I shouldn't go back to. I would, be on all these dating apps to fulfill some sort of void that was in me. And all that did was create more chaos on my life. Like all those mediocre connections, all like doing all these activities like partying and drinking to fulfill that void, when I was supposed to be pouring into myself in my lonely season, all that did was create more chaos for myself, more healing that I had to do. Which, I don't regret anything. I think everything happens for a reason. But all I'm trying to say is when you're presented with a lonely season, come at it from a brave standpoint. Don't try to get out of it so fast. And understand your lonely seasons are going to be hard. If it was easy, everybody would be letting themselves endure the lonely seasons. But it's not easy. That's why everyone just cycles through relationships. That's why everyone goes back to their exes when they don't want to be alone. That's why people go back to people who hurt them because they can't stand just being in their own company. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. That's what you need to realize, that it's not going to be some cakewalk, but you're going to be so proud of yourself for overcoming it. Your lonely seasons always serve a purpose, and it's really trying to get you to learn more about yourself. It's really trying to get you to pour more into your own goals and your own aspirations. Maybe, when you were with another person, when you were with that relationship, you were consumed with their life. Maybe this lonely season's asking you to consume yourself with your own life, with your own desires. When you're in your lonely season, I think like that's the perfect opportunity to start calling in the life that you truly want. And you call in that life by using that lonely season to cultivate a new identity, cultivate, new dreams and new ambitions, and send out that energy, because that's how you're going to connect with new, better people for you. That's how you're going to connect with a healthier life. That's how you're going to change everything about yourself that you knew before. And I will say one thing: when you're in your lonely season, especially after losing people that you care about and you begin meeting new people, I get it. Sometimes it's hard because you feel like it's not the same. These new people you're meeting, it's not the same as the people you lost. But I need you to realize, and I need you to be open to this. Just be open to the idea that you can connect with someone just as deeply as the connection you lost, even deeper. You're going to be able to meet a lot of people that you've never met before. You're going to form connections you never knew existed, but you have to be open to that idea, because if you're not open to that idea, you're never going to let anyone in. And that's another issue regarding lonely season. Some of us get so used to it and kind of pride ourselves in being alone and not needing anyone. And that's like a whole nother set of challenges. And for those people, you need to realize that you don't have to be prideful about, knowing how to do life alone. Life isn't meant to be done alone, honestly. There are times for lonely seasons. There are times to pour into yourself. There are times to focus on yourself. But there are also amazing connections that you can have in your life that will better your life. And you need to let yourself be open. Let yourself be open to new connections. You need to be open to the idea that the people you lost were not the end all be all. That you're gonna come across people who are gonna just meet your standards. They're gonna, surpass your standards. They might, really make your life as good as the people you lost did, and if not even better. I think that's another thing that really fears a lot of us during our lonely seasons. Like, we think we're never gonna meet people like the person we lost. Like, we're never gonna have that deep friendship or deep bond again, but that's not true. And you can't cage yourself in like that. Like, you can't tell yourself that, because honestly that's really saddening if you move through life always feeling like no one's ever gonna amount to that person, no one's ever gonna get this deep bond with you again. And you just need to be open to the idea that there are billions of people in this world, and you're gonna meet some really cool ass people, and you need to be open. You need to leave your heart open to new experiences and new people. Don't get my words mixed up. I still don't think that if you got out of a relationship that you need to go and dating apps and date a bunch of people and open your heart to new relationships. Like, let's be real here. You guys know what I think. You guys know what I think about that. I feel like I don't have to repeat myself. You guys know where I stand. So when I say keep your heart open, that's obviously pertaining to new connections, like new friends. And also down the road, when you are healed, then you can open your heart up to new romantic relationships. And just remember to keep your mind open, keep your heart open. Don't grow cold to the world due to the people you lost or the hardships you faced, because that's not benefiting you. I'm going to wrap this up by saying that the way your life is right now is the way it's supposed to be. Like, if you're in this lonely season, you don't fight against it. Don't go against the grain. Be open. Be aware of new connections. Put yourself in new situations to make new friends, build on new opportunities. But just understand that the way things are the way they're supposed to be. And I'm going to give you a brief example. I was supposed to go to New York recently with my ex-boyfriend. We had planned to go together, and obviously we broke up, and that didn't end up happening. So I brought one of my really good friends with me. And I feel like my past self would have been so insufferable about it. I feel like my past self would have been like, oh my God, I wish he was here right now. Like, we were supposed to be here together. But I know I've done so much work on myself because I didn't come to it with that attitude. I actually was so appreciative that my friend got to go with me. I was with my friend and my sister. And I didn't harp on the fact that my ex was supposed to be there because I was enjoying my present moment. I had so much fun with my girls. I had so much fun with the events we were going to. Not once did I feel insufferable. Not once did I think, oh my God, like, my ex was supposed to come with me to this. Like, I'm so sad. Like, I don't do that anymore because I'm so accepting of what is. I'm so accepting of this season I'm in. I'm so accepting of the situation at hand. He didn't come because he wasn't supposed to. We're not together because that wasn't supposed to be. And I'm not going to spend all my time trying to harp on these things and get upset and mad, because when you do that, you don't appreciate the people who are there. When you are just going in your head being insufferable about the connections you lost and who's not in your life anymore, and just you're getting angry and you're getting upset, that doesn't allow you to appreciate the people who are in your life. That doesn't allow you to appreciate the opportunities that are coming up for you. That trip to New York was so much fun. it didn't matter that the person who I thought was going to be there didn't end up being there, because everything everything panned out great anyway. And I appreciated the trip for what I got from it. I appreciated my friend who was able to take time off of work to come with me. I was appreciative with seeing my sister who lives across the country. I appreciated the whole entire trip because I wasn't letting myself be insufferable about, the person who didn't end up going. And I need you guys to start acting like that too, because I feel like a lot of us go through life and we're like, oh, like, this person was supposed to come with me to this, and my ex was supposed to be with me at this, and I'm so sad that they're not here, and I can't believe that it panned out this way. If people aren't in your life through those experiences, if people aren't in your life right now, it's because they're not supposed to be. And you need to realize that. So instead of, cultivating all these reasons to be upset about it, start appreciating what you do have in your life. Start appreciating the people who have stayed in your life, who are trying to pour into their friendship with you. Appreciate those people. When you are so caught up on the past and on people who aren't presently showing that they care about you, presently showing that they want to be in your life, when you are so caught up on those people, you will never be able to appreciate the blessings you have right now. It's going to be so hard for you to see that there are an abundance of people who do care about you. It's going to be hard for you to see that because all you want to focus on are the people who aren't currently there. So I just want you to keep that in mind. Your lonely seasons are a time to study yourself, to journal, to transform yourself into who you've always wanted to become, to call in the life you've always wanted, and to start putting yourself in situations to expand your life. Before maybe you were doing the same mundane, boring things all day. Maybe before you were consumed with your past relationship. Now you have the opportunity to focus on yourself. Now you have the opportunity to change your whole life. This lonely season doesn't have to be this bland, sad thing. Of course, there's hard moments, but if you utilize it correctly, your life will change like that. I'm telling you because I've experienced it. Your lonely season is not a time to go back to toxic habits, back to toxic people, or let in just anyone and everyone into your life so you're not alone. Your lonely seasons want you to stay away from those behaviors. God wants you to utilize your lonely seasons to the best of your ability, because if you actually utilize your lonely season correctly, you're going to be able to reap the benefits from it. Whereas if you don't, all you're going to do is perpetuate toxic cycles over and over and over again. So closing this out, I need you to realize that your lonely season serves a purpose. It's not by accident. It's not supposed to be happening. If it's happening in your life, you need to accept it and start utilizing it to your advantage. If you take this opportunity to learn about yourself, cultivate standards, pour into your dreams and your ambitions, you will connect with the right people. You will connect with the right opportunities, and you and your life will change dramatically. Is it going to be a long road sometimes? Yes. Is it going to be sad sometimes? Are you going to feel lonely? Yes. Like I said, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. But be different. Don't be like everyone. Start building up bravery and strength. Learn how to be okay in your own company. If you do, I promise you, you won't regret it. This is how you set the tone for your life. This is how you set the tone for a happy, fulfilled life. If you cannot be okay alone, no relationship, no person, no job, no amount of money is going to fix that. You need to learn how to be okay alone. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. I appreciate every single one of you. I'm so sorry if my episodes are coming out slower. I just have this little kitten now, and I'm really applying to grad programs, and that's where my focus lies right now. But I'm going to try my best to keep putting out episodes as fast as I can for you guys. If you guys need advice on anything else, just shoot me a DM. Go ahead and comment. I will leave my socials in the description. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you so much for listening.